With the news that Disney is officially cutting ties with Doctor Who, I thought it'd be a good idea to revisit the fact that I am, or at least once was, a massive Doctor Who fan. Well, until it got all shitty.
Apple bobbing! I love apple bobbing!
And when I say a big fan, I mean that I have watched everything that is conceivably possible to watch. See, there are many older episodes of Doctor Who that weren't preserved and are now considered lost media. But if it exists, I've seen it. From the cracking adventures across space and time, to the boring, borderline unwatchable tedium of some of the 1960s serials. I love Doctor Who. I love the adventure, the exploration, using time almost as a character in storytelling, and how it never stops wrestling with the morals and ethics of navigating the delicate balance between cultures. And it dawned on me that there was another show with a long television history that exhibited many of these same qualities that I'd never given a proper watch. Star Trek. Specifically, Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, STD-TNG was never totally unfamiliar to me. In fact, it's a show I can say I grew up watching. But, and this may sound foreign to you young whippersnappers out there, but back in the day you couldn't just throw on a streaming service or even a DVD in order to watch a show from start to finish. We watched whatever was on. So while I watched a fair amount of TNG as a kid, it was primarily through whatever reruns I happened to catch. Meaning I've never truly experienced it, seen how storylines and characters were developed over time. I've since heard many people praise the show for its handling of high-minded philosophical concepts and complex morals and ethics, and wanted to toss it on to see how TNG compares to DW. So here's a Doctor Who fan's experiences grappling with Star Trek The Next Generation. To start, let's zoom out and look at what the shows have in common. They both obviously involve a lot of traveling through outer space, not counting the early Pertwee years of Doctor Who, when the BBC slashed the show's budget and he was relegated to Earth. Both shows involve frequent interactions with alien cultures, and more importantly, foreign concepts of morality, ethics, justice, and so on. And in doing so, both shows introduce alien races who may or may not serve as foils for the main characters to grapple with. The Borg, for example, are like a much scarier version of the Cybermen, an alien race that is essentially technology run amok, converting organic life forms into its technological hive mind, whose only desire is to expand exponentially until the entire universe has been assimilated. One last thing I found that both shows had in common was how they contain what I'm calling the capacity for whimsy, wherein one week you could have an episode filled with intense drama and high stakes, and the next episode feels a little silly by comparison. The main characters are in little danger, and the solution is resolved as soon as everyone has a missing piece of information. One episode they rescue a primitive group of settlers and beam them all aboard the ship, and it's just silly. This guy is like, "Oh hi, I'm Danny McStereotype, where's the booze? I have an Irish accent, we can't stop thinking about alcohol for a second." Then they encounter a more advanced group of settlers that are facing extinction due to being unable to procreate, and you know immediately that the solution is for one group to meet the other, but the show drags on for 20 minutes being silly until they do. Also, the transporter in Star Trek is essentially the sonic screwdriver in Doctor Who. One of the prevailing critiques of Doctor Who over the years is the ever-increasing reliance of the sonic screwdriver as a magical MacGuffin to sort everything out. That's basically what the transporter is, albeit Star Trek does a better job of being consistent in explaining why it sometimes can't be used. But let's look beyond similarities and what I found unique or interesting about Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, a typical episode of Doctor Who involves the adventures of just a few main characters, the Doctor and the Doctor's companion, or companions. Typically it's only one person, though it is occasionally more than one, but most of the time we are following the adventures of two main characters. Star Trek has an ensemble cast, which makes balancing characterization much more challenging. Conflicting personalities that each need not just their own arc, but they need to complement each other. And you see this when you look at how these characters juxtapose one another. Data, for example, a cybernetic android, embodies the coldness of logic, while Counselor Deanna Troi, with her sort of psychic abilities, embodies the warmth and fluidity of emotions. But while the writing adds depth to Data's character as he continually struggles to break away from the binds of being a coldly logical machine in search of understanding what it means to be human, Counselor Troi is just tits up useless. I'll fucking kill all of you, goddammit! Captain, I'm sensing a lot of anger It's actually sort of impressive how the writers are able to breathe so much life into one character that doesn't technically have one, than Counselor Troy, whose only ability appears to be being able to read the most basic expressions of people that they encounter. There are several instances in which having someone who can tell when someone is lying would have been really helpful. But Troy either isn't in this episode, or is conveniently not in the room when this would have been helpful. There's one episode where they encounter a ship of seemingly dim-witted aliens experiencing mechanical difficulties, and send Geordi over to fix their ship, only to have Troy burst in all indignant and shit, like, "What are you doing? They're not as they appear, it's a trick." Well, thanks Deanna, that would have been helpful like 15 minutes ago. Where were you? And why are you acting like we should all know this already? You're the psychic. And here's where it gets even stranger. Following a season 1 in which they were clearly still ironing out the kinks in the show's structure and dynamic, season 2 begins with the introduction of a new character, Guinan, the ship's resident bartender, played by Whoopi Goldberg. It's a neat character that serves as a wise, mysterious, emotional rock that a lot of the other characters turn to when they need a welcome ear and a bit of perspective. You know, like a counselor. The show literally took what Troy's character probably should have been used for and cast someone else to do it, further cementing Troy as just being tits-up useless. Much of the rest of the cast are all great, creative vessels through which the show transmits depth and complexity. Data's aforementioned journey to understand what it means to become human, Worf's struggle to find meaning in a world that clashes with his identity as a warrior, they go in the S tier of characters. Geordi is fine. I mean, the visor stuff isn't all that interesting, and he basically serves as the conduit to understanding tech-related issues. Wes is an annoying little shit that nobody likes no matter how hard they try forcing us to like him. What's really funny is to go back and watch how Riker acted in Season 1. It's hilarious the way he sulks and broods and turns around dramatically. It's like he thinks he's on a soap opera and no one on set bothered to correct him. But there's one character I haven't talked about yet. The stoic, uncompromising Captain Jean-Luc Picard. And I haven't talked about him thus far because Picard is a psychopath. This is, by my estimation, the single biggest difference between Star Trek The Next Generation and Doctor Who. See, both shows are, at their core, about the wonders of exploration and thinking deeply about our relationship with the universe. And both of these explorations are led by men piloting a craft into potentially dangerous situations all around the galaxy. But with Doctor Who, it's one person with one or just a few people coming along for the adventure and all its inherent danger. While in TNG, there are literally thousands of people, as well as their families, whose lives are in the hands of someone who will, just like the Doctor, dive headfirst into the unknown at the drop of a hat. So, like every other episode, the Enterprise encounters something in the vast, unexplored reaches of space that seems immediately dangerous. And I'm like, oh, that seems dangerous. There's thousands of people on board. What are you doing? What are you doing? Because seemingly, every time, without fail, Picard is like, that's interesting, let's go take a closer look. Oh, everyone on this ship died for unexplained reasons. Let's send some people over to check it out without any hazmat suits or any protection. Oh, look, there's a theoretically impossible patch of space. Let's study it. Whoops, it's alive and we might be trapped in an infinite loop forever. It's sort of like the difference between being the captain of a cruise ship and being an Uber driver. Okay, let me explain that ridiculous analogy. Imagine you take an Uber and the driver is like, hey, listen, bruv, I'm about to get into some gangster shit. I don't know what's going to happen. And you can either be like, I got you, bruv, or, nah, I'm good, let me out. That's Doctor Who. One man, one companion, and a time-traveling police box. Now imagine you're on, a Carnival cruise ship. And out in the vastness of the open seas, the captain gets word of some wild-ass storm nearby, and is like, cool, let's go sail into it and take a closer look. And steers the ship along with you and thousands of other people into danger. That's Star Trek The Next Generation. What do the people on board the ship even do? Hey, what are we doing today? Well, we're supposed to go somewhere, but the captain will probably be distracted by something extremely dangerous and put all our lives at stake. Well, shit. Now, this is where you could say the entire point is to boldly go where no one has gone before. But that's the thing, Picard behaves like he is helming a much smaller ship with a few hundred dedicated explorers. Not a fucking major city that's sailing the stars. I don't know, TNG is great and all, but I imagine that if the Doctor ever met Captain Picard, he would appreciate his spirit of adventure, but also think he's a goddamn psychopath for dragging so many people, including kids, to the brink of their own demise on a weekly basis. I don't know, I don't think there's a point to this video that I can conclude on. Future me, don't even bother uploading this video, it sucks.